Hey, hi there, French Vinyl Addict coming out on another video. Today's one, I will be presenting to you the latest purchases I made last summer. Well, mainly last month, as August been a quite busy time for me. And yeah, today's video will likely be a bit more longer than usual, as I will be combining all the records that they have found. That includes the purchases I made online and those in the record store. So, but I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. So, ready for departure? Let's go. So let's kick off with the first record I bought, a part of the batch of records I found online. This is that one. This is Yes. This is Relayer. Yes, seventh studio album, a very good prog rock record released in 1974. A bit different than the previous one, Tales of Topographic Ocean, mainly because Rick Wakeman, the iconic keyboard player, decided to leave the band right after they had finished touring, and also because he made a couple of solo albums he made success with. So he just wanted to pursue his solo career, and so they hired a Swiss keyboard player, Patrick Morat, who used to play with a UK band called Refugee. So he joined the band for this album. They also had Alan White. That's the second album he made, as he had replaced Bill Bruford right after Close to the Edge. So yeah, very different, less symphonic, I would say, than the previous albums he has made. But it's cool because they kept on going on, exploring new sides of prog rock, pushing out the boundaries, I would say. And yeah, it's not my favorite one, but it's still interesting to give a listen. So this one I got is a UK press, original release on the Atlantic label, and as you can see, the artwork of the label is really beautiful. This orange gray label sounds amazing. One of the first UK press I got. On to the next. This is a band slash an album. It's the first time I bought a record from the Jam. This is a Setting Sun. This is their fourth album released in 1979. To be honest, I don't know much about the Jam. As it happens, as my channel is growing up, I recently took part in a couple of open mic sessions, live stream, discussing with other fellow YouTuber, and those people were lately mentioning this band and this album as one of their favorite. So I knew a little about Paul Weller and the Jam, so I say, okay, why not? And it's really cool. It's really pleasant. It's definitely made me want to go a little bit deeper into the Jam or Paul Weller's career. So if I have the opportunity to find a further record or albums, I will definitely give a try. It's funny because on that album they had a cover version of Heat Wave, which is on the Who, a quick one album. The Who originally they made a cover of that song of that album, and so yeah, it's very cool, very interesting. The next is a very all-time classic. Probably everyone knows at least one song on that album. This is Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Very important album in the history of rock and roll, mid 70s. Freaking genius when it comes to play piano. Um, I never had a chance to get a hold a decent copy, original, a decent price of that record. So now this is it. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. A lot of songs still played and aired in today's radio station, classic rock station, like Benny and the Jet or Saturday Night, very rock song, and also that tribute he made for Marilyn Monroe, Candle in the Wind. A lot of different aspects of the genius of Elton John on this double album, this double record. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I think this is the seventh album, studio album he made back in the days. So what more can we say? Freaking good album, Elton John. On to the next, we stay in the UK, though we moved back 10 years earlier. We are now in the 60s, and this is the Kings. This is one of my favorite 60s British rock band of all time, with the Small Faces, the Who, the Beatles. Of course, this is the Kings, and this is very interesting. This one released in 1966, at the time where they were facing the problem of not being able to perform in the US. I went to the musical in London in 2016, and I knew a little about all this detail, their story, and I discovered, yeah, the fact that they were banned. I think 3 years they couldn't go in any place in North America. So what they the consequences is that they produce a lot of different album in where they were focusing on their own culture and their Britishness. So and this is the first one they made, Face to Face. You have a lot of great songs, including Dandy or Sunny Afternoon. Really cool album. This one I got is a UK press, one of the first UK press, a very heavy record, as they made back in the days on this PYE label. As you can see, really I love the Kings. The next is another my one of my all-time favorite band of the rock and roll of history. This is Queen. This is Queen's debut album. Never had a chance to buy this record before. I grew up listening to Queen. This is one of my first music shock when I was like 11 or 10 years old, way back in the days. And as my father, he had all the cassettes, mainly later material albums, and A Night at the Opera. And I know I still have that vinyl, and the greatest hits on cassette. I think I listened to that record, greatest hits on cassette. There's this white cassette where with blue letters on the cassette, like a zillion time. So I knew a little about very early stuff from Queen, and I had a chance to find that record in a very cool conditions. It's rock, it's glam rock. It's very early Queen. You have this song "Keep Yourself Alive," which is my one of my favorite feel good song ever. Liar, and great song. And I had a little surprise, as it's not only a UK press. This one is a UK press, but it's a promo copy. It's a promo sale copy, and it sounds amazing. One of the first pressing they probably have made to send out to local radio station to promote the band. So really cool. The next is one, and the last I bought from that internet batch. That's still Queen. That's Sheer Heart Attack. That's the third album. Just before they made Night at the Opera, which is one of my favorite, one of them, the masterpiece of Queen. Very good rock album with killer tracks on that. Brighton Rock, Killer Queen, Now I'm Here, just to name a few. In the Lap of the Gods, revisited, UK press as well. So, and yeah, I went also on the road last month on business trip, so I took advantage to go to some record store in Toronto. And by the way, thank you very much, Brian and Bionic Robot. He's got a channel. He was friend kindly to send me a list of cool places, a nice record store I could go to in Toronto. I hadn't chance to visit all of them, though. I went through rotate this cool place in downtown Toronto, and I found that record. This is a compilation. This is a double LP, volume one, as they made back in the days in 2004. This is a reissue from 2013, a compilation of their greatest studio tracks and live version. This is a psych rock. This is a 90s West Coast band from Brian Johnstone Massacre. Of course, they found their inspiration with a lot of 60s bands, such as Velvet Underground, for instance, but they don't copy the genre. They do it in their own way. And when I was learning to play the guitar, my guitar teacher, he taught me how to play hide and seek, and it's a very cool psych song. It's not on that one. It's probably on volume two. This is, yeah, as I said, it's a compilation. So really cool if you are into psych rock and you want to discover more recent bands. In that record store, I also found that one. This is Rod Stewart. Every Picture Tells a Story album. Has a very little to do with his later material he made while in the 80s, you know, Baby Jane, Do You Sing 'em Sexy, all that kind of stuff. Um, it was still part of the Faces, and I think the bands just helped or played on that album as well. And it's a very pleasant record. It's back to the roots, I would say. This is truly the Rod Stewart I love to hear, way back to the days where he was still, let's say, authentic, I would say. I like the later material he made, but I think very early 70s he made really cool songs. He was close to a very genre like blues, really early 70s rock. So Every Picture Tells a Story, worth a try, and you find very easily this record. It's not very expensive for an original press. This is a US press I found in Toronto, so I took it back home. Now I also went back to Burlington in Vermont. Vermont is a very cool place. I already went there. For those who watches my channel, I made a video. Vermont, find something 4 5 months ago when I was starting the channel, and I went back. Only one place, Burlington Record, is a very cool place in Burlington downtown. Ian, the manager, is a very cool chap. I had a discussion with him. He's a Neil Young fan, and it's a very cool place. So if you're around Burlington, Vermont, Burlington Record, it's definitely a go-to place when it comes to shopping vinyl. And in that store, I found a couple of records. That one, this is the Birds. This is another band. I think their career spanned over 10 years, and they went to different genres, from folk. They electrified folk rock with Miss Tambourine Man, that Bob Dylan cover song, as you know, through psych rock, up until country rock. They even tried country rock at the end of the career, when David Crosby and Gene Clark had already left. This is the 1966 album. They had this massive success with 8 Miles High. Mr. Spaceman is also a good song on that album. And it's, in my opinion, it's one of their best album they made. As Gene Clark was still part of the band, he was forced to leave, I think, after that album. Really like Gene Clark, by the way. I just recently found a great album from Gene Clark, the Guns Birds, solo material, so underrated artist. But let's get back on track. The Birds, this is a US press as well, one of the first, and it just sounds amazing. Released on this Columbia label. It's very cool, very good conditions. So the Birds, Fifth Dimension. The next is something very different. That's early 80s pop rock. It's the Quarter Flash. That's, you know, the song Harden My Heart. I think the band was managed by a couple of young people, and the lady, she was a singer, and she also played a saxophone, I guess. So it's very interesting. It's pop. It's very easy listening. It's not something like very hard, like very typical. But it's a pleasant record, and I didn't have to pay much for that, so I took it back home. The next one is another record. You know, there were a thread or a challenge going on the internet among the vinyl community, video makers, and a lot of people were mentioning lately this album as one of their favorites. I'm talking about that one. This is Neil Young, On the Beach. A really cool record. 1974, later material. Not in the same genre slash mood as Harvest or, you know, everything what he did back in days with Buffalo Springfield, late 60s. Much more dark, University, went through a couple of issues, problems in his private life. So he made that record back in the days. It's very interesting. It's not my favorite record. It's not my favorite album. I was reading his biography back in the days, and I knew this meant so much to him as the music, the company record forced him to do another Harvest after the success he met with Harvest, and he didn't want to. So it's nice that he kept going. He kept his authenticity, I would say, and yeah, it's definitely worth a try. A very cool, very good album. On the Beach, Neil Young. The next one is another classic, mid '70s, late '70s classic. Steely Dan, Aja. I really like Steely Dan. We have a local classic rock radio station over here, and every Sunday morning they play a vinyl. We can even win this copy of the vinyl. So I think last week I had a chance to rediscover that album as they were playing the entire vinyl Sunday evening, and as it happens, I found a copy in that record store in Burlington, very good conditions, and it's very easy listening. I would prefer the Pretzel Logic, their first album, but it's still a good record to me. Asia. And last but definitely not least, this is a treasure to me because it's the first time I'm able to find a copy on vinyl of that artist. And I'm giving a shout out to Joseph Isola, a French YouTuber who loves Bob Dylan. Yeah, I grew up listening to Bob Dylan. I had a greatest hit on CD. I knew all the major songs, but for some reason, I didn't dive deeper in Bob Dylan's genre, and it's amazing because so many albums, so many great songs. Very one of the most important artists of the 20th century, Bob Dylan. This is Blonde on Blonde. This is a '68 pressing. What can more we say? It's part of the trilogy. Often bring it with this Highway 61 revisited and the bringing it all back home album. Sorry if I missed the pronunciation. And this is important as I think it's the album he made right before he had his car accident that kept him away from the spotlight for a while. So really cool, really great album, a masterpiece. Sounds amazing. This is a Columbia. I will just show on the camera. This is a Columbia pressing, a '68 pressing. This is a stereo version. So really glad I could find a copy of that record. So this is it. This is my August finds. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next chapter. Bye bye.